Hey lovelies, you're welcome back to Reviews and Recaps. I would say the star of this episode, or stars of this episode, would be Drew and Angela. They both brought it this episode. Now, it feels like Angela has been bringing it consistently for a couple of episodes now. And Angela is slowly becoming the star of the show, honey. So the rest of the girls better pull up and make sure they work for their check, because Angela is coming for that top spot, in my opinion. At least that's how it's looking outside looking in. Now, I will say the thing about Drew is I wish Drew would come as consistently as she did in this episode. Imagine Drew brought it the way she brought it to Brit at the dinner or lunch or whatever it is they did. Imagine Drew brings that consistently. Why can't you bring that energy when you're speaking to Porsha? Why can't you bring that energy when you're speaking to the other girls? I feel like Drew probably also thought Brit is an equal match for her, so she can do it without getting into any sort of like tiff back and forth or something. Because I just don't understand why she had that energy at the lunch. But I'm like, girl, where's this energy been last season, the season before that? Like, Drew just never ever really brings it to that extent, in my opinion. At least I like Drew, funny enough, but I think it's something to like somebody and feel like, oh, I like her, go lucky personality, how she basically gets on with everyone. But like in terms of what she brings to the show and how she shows up in scenes, I feel like for the first time she is actually showing up and asking what the people want to know. Now, before I continue, please smash that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and tap that bell button right next to it so you know every single time that I post. And now let's get into it. So Brit invited Drew for a sit down because the peace party did not go well. Now, they had a little bit of a bonding moment about the fact that they like similar cocktail, but made differently. And then they got into it. Drew was like, so have you ever sold cat? I was like, wait, what? Drew. Okay, Drew. I'm gonna need you, baby, to maintain this energy moving forward. Every time you're on our screens, please maintain this energy. This is the energy we want to see, okay? From you, Drew. Like, please and thank you. The funny part was Brit was like slurring her words. She couldn't get the words out. It's almost like when you want to lie and you just can't lie and you're basically getting tongue-tied. That is what it felt like. It's like, girl, did you do corn or you didn't do corn? Like, what is it? Can't you speak? She eventually came out of her mouth and said she never did corn or any sort of like physical activity, but that she did webcam with her best friend for a week. She didn't like it or whatever, and then she bowed out and left gracefully. Now, I don't know if I really believe that it was just a week, in my opinion, especially because she said she made good money. So what exactly stopped her from continuing to do it? Is my question. Why did you stop? Like, because if you're making good money from it, a lot of people, when they're making good money from something, they don't just stop. So my question is, why did they feel like in that moment, or why did she feel like in that moment, her and her best friend, well, I don't know if the best friend stopped, so I'm going to focus on her. Why did she feel in that moment that she needed to stop doing that, but was still doing video vixen and all that kind of stuff? So, and I know people are saying, I've been seeing a lot of comments saying like, oh, now she's saying she was in her 20s. No, these are two separate incidents that I need people to open your ears. Just because you like Kenya does not mean you shouldn't listen. At least listen to everyone's assertions. So from Brit's position, Brit is saying that the picture where she allegedly had a D in her mouth was from when she was a teenager. Okay. And then the other stuff about being a webcam, whatever, was when she was in her 20s. Okay, so those are two separate incidents. Now, does that mean that I believe Brit when she says she was underage? I don't necessarily know that. I don't have any facts to suggest that that is true. And considering we've also caught Brit in a lie, I don't know if I can trust anything that's coming out of her mouth. Let's be clear. Brit, in my opinion, allegedly is lying about the whole license thing. So my thing is, if you're lying about the license thing, how should I believe, or why should I believe that now you're telling the truth about being a teenager? I feel like there's probably no way of verifying how old you were at the time. And so that's why it's very easy for her to be able to lie and say, oh, I was a teenager at the time. There's no way of knowing that. So I'm going to just reserve my views on that until we see any facts, if they ever come out on that point. Now, the interesting thing that Drew said that I don't really understand was apparently Drew made a comment about some man being in her DMs. And Drew alluded to recognizing it. So I'm thinking, how did you recognize the PP? Were you the one that allegedly gave Kenya that information? Because it is a little bit suspicious to me. Because initially, Drew said, she almost told on herself and said she noticed it or something, and then the person was in her DM, and then eventually she said, oh, it was all a joke. So I'm thinking, girl, is it a joke? Did you give Kenya that information? Which would explain why she's so strong on Brit and looking at her like, girl, you're lying, because it's almost like she knows her gist. So it is given like it could be Drew. I really hope Porsha has proof, especially because this season Porsha is not looking good at all. So if you have proof, better keep that proof, because Porsha, you are starting to become the villain of the season. And I know it's because production had to work with whatever it was that they could work with, because what they wanted to film about her life was not coming through on the screen. Also, interestingly enough, I know the season started with Shamia being almost like the face of the show. I feel like that is suddenly not coming across anymore. I don't even think I heard anything from her in this episode. At least I didn't feel her presence this episode. So I'm like, girl, I don't know what's going on, but something about this cast as an ensemble is not working at the moment. Now let's shift gears a little bit to Angela inviting Drew to Porsha's birthday. Girl, you know you're wrong. How you going to invite somebody that the celebrant is not cool with to her birthday trip, knowing fully well that they've not had a time to squash it first? At least let them squash it first. Then you can have a whole trip. You can say, guys, how about you knew exactly what you wanted to do? You wanted to twist the knife in and stir up some drama. And that's why I said Angela is working overtime with production, in my opinion. And she's bringing it this season because she is pushing the storylines forward. The whole thing between Porsha and Drew, they need to have a conversation about it. It's going on for too long. So it's just like, let me bring Drew over to the girls trip. Let's stir up some ish. Let it all go down on the girls trip. Then we'll have an episode later to clean it up and we can move on from the storyline. I feel like that's what Angela and production are trying to achieve from this. Now, my thing is this. You know exactly what you're doing when you're bringing them there. So you then trying to act oblivious and be like, well, I thought it was going to be cool. No, she wasn't cool with it. Porsha was like, wow, you can tell she was not cool with it. But at the same time, if you work on a show like that, you're not surprised. And for people that like to feign like, oh, I don't get why Porsha hates the fact that Drew brought Dennis on the show. You see how they can ambush her like that? That's the same way they can ambush her when it comes to Mr. Dennis. And that is what she is trying to avoid, because they are actual family and they have a child together. And so that's why I think like people need to be a little bit more aware of. Think about it like this. Production tends to tell certain people, okay, we need Drew to come to this trip. I don't know how you'll go and do it. We need someone to bring Drew to the trip. And then whoever says yes, which in this case is Angela, is why she's getting the steam from Porsha. But the truth is, anybody on that thing could have brought Angela on the trip. that is the same way they can set things up where they bring Dennis and then ambush Porsha. Porsha pulls up to somewhere she thinks she's just going to have a lunch with someone on the team or whatever, and then they pull in Dennis. This is the thing that production does. That's how they produce a TV show. So people need to be a little bit like, read between the lines. Why else did she say, yes, she's cool with them working together on music, but not on the show? Don't bring him onto the show, because she knows the implication. She's been on the show for a long time. She knows how the show works. She knows what happens on the show. And that is exactly what I feel, in my opinion, that's what she's fighting about. Now, this whole episode, I don't think a lot of things happened. It didn't really pique my interest enough. The only two things that did was Angela working overtime and basically shining like the star of the show. And Drew was also looking like a star this episode. Now, I do hope the other girls bring it. I did like a little bit of like light shade and entertainment between Porsha and Cynthia. I wish they had showed a little bit more of that. I feel like they're trying to force the drama of the whole Drew and Porsha thing on us when we do not really care. How about you give us a little bit more scenes where Porsha and Cynthia are talking about getting a divorce. They're laughing, that banter. We would have enjoyed that. We would have ate that up. But instead, you keep giving us the whole Drew and this. We do not care. It is going on for too long. You guys need to wrap it up. I would have appreciated if production said to both of them, like, yo, this is going on for too long. Y'all need to wrap this up. I think what people also need to understand is we're watching an edited show. So even though it could have been, this whole thing that we're watching right now could have been filmed over maybe a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, who knows, right? And it's now been edited into an episode. So it may seem like these things are dragging out, but in reality, this is how it happens, where you're irritated with somebody, you don't talk to them for a couple of weeks, then you later sit down and squash it and move on. So I think there's also something to be mindful of there and not missing out on that. Now, I will be making a separate video where I'll be talking about Kenya's confessionals and what she gave us, if we can call it that. But make sure you smash that like button. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit that share button so you can share with anyone that you think would be interested in the content. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.